What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Football Forecast episode number 8 of the Football Forecast podcast. Actually, I think it's supposed to be 9 on here, if I'm going to be honest. But yeah, that's literally all good. And I'll explain to you why, right? So, week 2 has been the most disgruntling, disorienting week of NFL football ever. Even trying to watch it. And just the news that has come out of it. I mean, obviously, if you keep up with what's been going on right now, you would know that this is one of the worst weeks of NFL football of all time. Just because of the injuries, the games, the upsets that have been happening, the blowouts, Tom Brady being Tom Brady, the Patriots being the Patriots, the Dolphins tanking, the Steelers sucking. I mean, everything is now just bland in week 2. And to add to that, all fantasy owners are complaining because, none of their guys that were supposed to do, efficient things did anything efficient this week. And, so it's overall, week 2 kind of sucks, not going to lie. But luckily, it is a Tuesday, so we have a couple days until the NFL week 3 starts. And we can, talk about that some more. But I guess we'll get into what has happened over the past week in the NFL before we kind of move on to college things, because like we said last week, not many things happen in college this weekend. A couple of big things, but not really too many things. So we'll get into NFL first, kind of move into that as we go along. All right, so let's move into the NFL. All right, so I guess the first thing we can go over is I don't know, a lot of things. I think Drew Brees is probably the most shocking thing. So Drew Brees injured, right? So hand injury, right? Thumb injury, I think it's supposed to be. So I don't know if anybody watching here is a Saints fan. I hope not, because I tend to dislike the Saints. But you have to feel bad for Drew Brees here. Drew Brees has a torn ligament in his throwing thumb. He's going to require surgery. The timeline on the surgery looks like it's going to be about 6 weeks for recovery. So for Saints fans, it's very bad, especially when you're in a time, we've talked about this before, the Saints are now in a time where this is a Super Bowl window. And now you don't have Drew Brees. You don't have a guy like Drew that can, that's almost as good as somebody like Tom Brady that can lead you through the season, a veteran guy, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. You don't have that guy anymore. Now you have Teddy Bridgewater, who really didn't do much in his outing once Drew had to leave that game. So, I guess that's the biggest injury out of all that has happened, this past week. I mean, how do you think the Saints are going to, be able to recover from that kind of blow to their team?
Probably not very well. I mean,
yeah, I think that's the best.
I mean, because like a lot of offenses in the league, the Saints' offense is predicated by the play of the quarterback. Drew Brees, he's the distributor. He's the reason why Alvin Kamara has been so good. He's the reason why Michael Thomas is so good. His ability to throw the ball with accuracy and get the ball to his playmakers. Is Teddy Bridgewater going to be able to do that? Well, who knows? I mean, the guy's hardly played since he's been in New Orleans. He hasn't played in a few years very much. He's been just serving as a backup. Can he step in and even just do a reasonable job? Nobody knows, and we'll see. But based on what I saw when he came in the game to replace Brees on Sunday, I don't think so. I mean, they're going to figure out, I guess, have to figure out some way to modify the offense, and they're going to have to devise some kind of offensive game plan. Obviously, that plan is going to have to be something different than what they had with Brees. It may involve being a little more conservative, more running the ball, and not passing the ball around quite so much. And that means that their defense is going to have to step up, and they're going to have to do a better job because the offense probably will not be putting as many points on the board.
I think all in all, when you take a Saints defense like that, that's so versatile and so acrobatic in the way they do things, with screens and deep shots downfield like, the Falcons and the Packers can do, and, even running up the middle, even though that's shown to not be Alvin Kamara's strong suit. Now you take a lot of those things away. Now you're limited to a couple plays that you can run when you have a quarterback like Teddy Bridgewater, who was 17 for 30 in his outing once Drew left, 165 yards with 5.5 average yards a play. So, yeah, you're kind of at a point here where your offense is very limited. Like you said, the defense is really going to have to step up, and the Saints are going to have to be known for their defense this year. And personally, to me, it looks like the NFC South has been completely flipped upside down. It looks like the Falcons and the Buccaneers are going to lead this division, honestly. If Teddy Bridgewater cannot do or does equal to less than what he did in his outing without Drew Brees, I'm thinking that the Falcons and the Buccaneers are going to lead the NFC South while the Saints and the Panthers are below. And it's kind of weird to see it that way, but like I said, Week 2 is weird. It has been so weird so far. I don't recall it ever being like this. Week 2 is always usually a fun week where things are, getting started. Last year you had Ryan Fitzpatrick balling out and things like that at Week 2. So now you have no idea what's going on. We don't know what's going on. I mean, guys are getting injured left and right, which brings us to our next thing. Big Ben Roethlisberger is out for the season. So that's unfortunate. We know we have a lot of Steelers fans here in the world, one of the most popular sports teams in the world, just for the fact that, for a lot of people growing up, the Steelers were one of the only teams you could watch on television. So, a lot of kids have grown up loving the Steelers because their parents have loved the Steelers, and just a lot of orientation, a lot of just kind of tradition around the Steelers. So it kind of sucks to see this happen to somebody like Big Ben, somebody who's such a veteran in this league. So without Big Ben, I mean, Mason Rudolph didn't look too bad in his outing compared to somebody like Teddy Bridgewater. I know he didn't get, obviously, a lot of plays. He was 12 for 19. I think they preferred to probably split the carries a little bit between all of their backs and even, Mason Rudolph himself. But even with the addition of Minka Fitzpatrick as well, do you think, maybe the Steelers have a better shot at, being good without their starter like the Saints do? Do you think they can be better than the Saints in a recovery situation? To me, it looks like
I don't know. Maybe because, Mason Rudolph, he is a backup. He hasn't played a lot under Roethlisberger. But when he has had the opportunity, he's done all right. In Pittsburgh, the way that team is built, they will be better able to have a sustainable running game. They got guys like James Conner who are kind of big and kind of built to be able to run in between the tackles. I think the Steelers could have a decent running game, and maybe do some play action passing, get the ball downfield to Juju, and so I mean they got a couple of guys that they can build that offense around, and it can still be productive. But Pittsburgh does not have the best defense around. Minka Fitzpatrick will certainly help, but again, taking out Roethlisberger, you're looking at an offense that probably is not going to be putting as many points on the board. So therefore, you've got to have a better performance from your defense. And Steelers' defense the last couple of years hasn't been one of the best.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's just it looks right now that the Steelers' defense isn't as explosive as defenses like the Saints, which kind of worries me a little bit. But I would say overall, I think they have a better chance at recovering from this unfortunate situation. Better chance than the Saints do. And that's because of a couple reasons. Number one, I think Mason Rudolph, it's kind of hard to tell from the gap in that game, in the game that Teddy Bridgewater played. There's not much of a gap in those two games that they played and the ways that they played. But I kind of have to look at Mason Rudolph and say maybe I think he's going to be a little bit better than Teddy Bridgewater, just able to get the ball off. And honestly, I know Teddy Bridgewater's fast; he can use his feet, but Mason Rudolph knows how to use his feet. He knows zone runs and things like that in the RPO situation. And if he's able to get the ball off to Juju and the rest of those guys that have great chemistry in that Steelers locker room after the entire AB situation happened, that's going to give him an edge. I think another big thing too. What you trade for when you have the Saints having an explosive defense, well, I would say the Steelers have a veteran defense. I mean, you have guys in there. Obviously, you got guys like Bud Dupree, Cameron Hayward, Devin Bush, Mark Barron, exactly, yeah, and
Joe Hayden.
Yeah, all those guys. This is a veteran defense. This is a tough defense. Yeah,
they got guys who've been in the league for several years and been successful at other places. And maybe it's just a deal where maybe they've got to get a few more games together and kind of develop their chemistry. So what? But they've got guys who have been good at other places. So maybe it could be a deal where it just takes a little bit of time for them to kind of come together and build some cohesiveness. But and yeah, I mean they've definitely got some potential. I mean, if I had to compare the Steelers defense and the Saints defense, I would be more encouraged from the Steelers' defense as far as their chances of getting better.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I would just take it just because of the veterans that I see on that defense, the toughness I see, the resilience in those guys. And another thing is you have guys like Minkah Fitzpatrick coming in, guys that are going to be quiet about contracts and things like that with chemistry, and they're going to be good additions to the team. Minkah Fitzpatrick is exactly that. He's a guy that can go. He could be your zone ball hawk, or he's a guy that can go man to man with some of the best in the league. He can go man to man with Julian Edelman, Antonio Brown, Josh Norman, whoever it's going to be. I'm going to say Josh Gordon, but yeah, whoever it's going to be. Minkah can do it like a corner, and like I said, he can also sit in the back in his zone and be a ball hog all day. So that's going to be a great addition to the Steelers. I think that can be something that can really fire them up and kind of get them off of this, I guess, kind of Big Ben hangover type thing where, they're kind of feeling sorry for themselves because of this, because they shouldn't be. I think they have a good shot at clinching that wild card towards the end of the season. But we will see what happens. Yeah, I'm definitely rooting for the Steelers in this situation, though, because they've definitely shown some resilience in this whole AB situation. They've definitely pulled through and have been able to keep their team from being completely ripped apart. I guess mentally is what it seems like. So. Yeah, so that is that. So some other things too. What were some other? There were some other big injuries that happened, right? There is.
Well, you have the Jets and backup quarterback going down for the season last night, so now they're down to their third string quarterback until Sam Darnold can come back.
Final quarterback, right? So the last man standing. So what? That's Luke Falk then as their backup. Okay, well Luke Falk proved to be pretty decent. Looking at his stats on paper, I didn't actually get to watch that game, but
yeah, I mean he you look at his stats and he did pretty well. 20-25, 198. Didn't have any turnovers, but also at the same time, the Jets' offense didn't really seem to do anything when he was in there. I mean they didn't put any points on the board when he was in there at quarterback. So yeah, I mean he had some decent stats. It was like he put some yardage on there. But again, the name of the game is putting points on the board, and they didn't score any points. I think they already had the 3 points when Trevor Siemian went out, so I don't think they scored any points after he came in to be the quarterback. So
yeah, I think they're in probably a little bit different situation than the Steelers and the Saints are, and I say that not because those guys, those backups are better than these backups. That may be the case, but also Sam Darnold is expected to be back faster than both of those guys, faster than Drew Brees especially, or faster than Big Ben especially, but also faster than Drew Brees. Supposed to be back in the next 3 weeks? I think they said week 5. So if that could be the best case scenario for them, for Sam Darnold to be back in week 5. If they can get everybody healthy on defense. They honestly, I would say they have one of the best defenses in the league. So if they can get everybody healthy there, they can step up a little bit and have Luke Falk do his thing and Le'Veon Bell rush some. I mean, they could be in a decent situation until Darnold gets back.
They could be, and they got to get some defensive guys back. They've got to get C.J. Mosley and Quentin Williams both back. I think they're optimistic they may have them back next week, so we'll have to see about that.
Definitely, I think I actually liked watching the Jets. I think everybody likes to pick out teams that are going to be a dumpster fire before the season, right? And I think we all looked at the Dolphins and we all kind of said that. Some people picked the Cardinals. I don't know. That was kind of a weird pick. I think the Jets was a team that I personally, before before Le'Veon Bell was there, and all these things were going on and they drafted Quinn Williams and things like that. Until they started showing that they really wanted to win and trading for all these Ravens players, I was gonna have a feeling they were gonna be one of the worst teams. They came out this season and absolutely surprised me, and I mean before this season when they did all these moves, drafted Quinnen, got C.J. Mosley. Did all these things, especially with Le'Veon Bell. They really surprised me with how much they want to win this year, and I respect that from the Jets, especially with this rebranding, the new uniforms and things like that. They're trying to do something here. They're probably going to be the hardest working team in the NFL this year. These guys are going to work through resilience. I know the Steelers look like they could be as well, but these guys have a little bit less than they have. Their defense so far is pretty young. It's a rebuilding of the defense. We know the Falcons tried to work through that a couple years ago. Had a similar situation. The Falcons defense is pretty okay now, pretty average, and the Jets could be right up there after not having one of the best defenses in a while. They used to have a very veteran, very slow defense, but now it's kind of getting younger and younger. And guys like C.J. Mosley with that pick six, week one. That was a good sign for them. Hopefully they get all those guys back. They have to stay healthy. I know obviously they're not going to have much depth there right now since they just got that defense rolling.
Right.
But they can build that. They can build that up. If they don't, win a Super Bowl this year, they definitely have a chance next year with all the depth that they're going to get from the draft and new signings and things like that. They definitely have a chance to go deep next year. Unfortunately, all these injuries at the beginning happened, which is probably going to put them off a path to get in the playoffs. But you can't count them out yet. The New York Jets could definitely, clinch their way into the playoffs. We could see them there fighting against. The other AFC teams that are supposed to be really good, Browns, Patriots, Steelers, whatever. We can see the Jets in there somehow. That's going to be a very fun narrative to watch. How do they bounce back? How do the Saints bounce back? How do the Steelers bounce back? It's going to be fun to watch that.
Also watch and see if it can possibly get any worse for the Dolphins.
Yeah, no, I think at this point, if these people don't know, you guys, I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with the worst teams in the NFL. I know a lot of people, casual fans will watch, ESPN Sports Center will see the biggest highlights and things like that. But if you're really looking into it, the Dolphins are tanking, and there's no like week one we were like, okay, do you think they're tanking? Oh, I don't know, they could be tanking, but now it's like, yeah, they're tanking. Like there's no doubt.
Well, I mean, after two games, they've lost two games by a combined score of 102-10. They've traded away since the season, since right before the season started, and went to trade Minkah Fitzpatrick. They now, after 2 weeks, have already traded away three of the best players that they had. So it's obvious they're in a total rebuild mode right now, and they're not focused on trying to win this year. And you have to think that maybe over the course of the season they'll maybe gradually get a little bit better, but. It's hard to have any optimism all watching the Dolphins and hoping that they'll even actually win one game unless they somehow just start playing a lot better.
Well, yeah, that's true. The way I kind of affirmed to me when I saw the Dolphins were tanking and kind of decided, like, yeah, definitely, is when I saw reports that they're now open to trading Kenyon Drake. That was their only line of defense for their entire team this year, and they're trading him away.
Kenyon Drake should want to be traded. Maybe he'll
Exactly.
actually get a chance to play.
Kenyon is one of the best wide receiver running back flexes in all of football right now. I'm talking on the same level of Alvin Kamara. If he's at his best.
That guy would do awesome in the State's offense if Drew Brees was there at quarterback.
He would do great, absolutely anywhere. Imagine if he was on a team like the Cowboys or even the Packers or somebody like that, somewhere that needs that kind of safety valve. That's not really a tight end. That's not somebody that's going to go downfield. Somebody that can juke around and get in and out and things like that. He would be great almost anywhere besides where he's at. So that's when I kind of saw that, yes, definitely they are tanking. There's no doubt in my mind that they are going to have the first pick of the NFL draft in 2020. I guess it's just a question of who they'll get. I know we talked about it last week, but yeah, that's all it is. So if you're a Miami fan, I know you're not happy now. You sure will be happy in April when they pull a John Gruden and they're trading around and getting all these guys, and it's going to be crazy. So yeah, hopefully they get Tua and Jerry Jeudy, but we'll see. We'll see who they get in that draft. But yeah, that is the Dolphins. That is a sad situation for Miami fans out there.
Yeah, it is. And of course, meanwhile, Giants fans all across the country rejoicing as Eli has officially been benched.
Yes, that is I mean, honestly, I don't want to say I'm completely surprised, but I am a little bit surprised because to me it kind of seemed like no matter what, Eli was going to start, even if he was getting killed out there and he was doing terrible, he was going to start all season, while the Giants kind of just rode the wave of mediocre. They're not trying to win or whatever. They're not trying to go all out because obviously they don't have a team right now that's solid enough to go all out. They traded out all their best defensive players last year, got all those guys out of there, along with Odell. So to me, it looks like they're also in a sort of rebuild mode. With guys like Saquon, it's kind of hard to be in a total rebuild mode, but I think they are in kind of a rebuild mode. And it just came as a surprise to me that they would start Daniel this early. To me, personally, I don't think I would have done that if I was in their situation. If I could choose, I do understand that it's best for the organization, it's best for the fans, because Daniel Jones is a talent. And that was the smartest thing the Giants have probably done in about 100 years.
Well, I think they recognize that he's a quick study. He's a smart guy. He did extremely well in the preseason. And being off an 0-2 start, I guess at this point the Giants figured, what do they got to lose? They do have a couple of 3 playmakers on offense. If they got a quarterback that can get them the ball in a position where they can make some plays. I mean, the Giants obviously they're not going to the playoffs. Anybody that watched them can figure that out. They're not a terrible team. They're not a good team, but they are a team that does have some capability. And if you watch Eli play, you see the same level of play out of him that you saw last year and the year before that and the year before that. And basically, he's in probably his performance puts him somewhere in the bottom half of the league, and it doesn't appear that it's going to get any better. So why not give Daniel Jones a chance? I mean, even if he plays, if he doesn't do great, it couldn't. I don't think he could be any worse than what Eli has done. Eli hasn't been terrible, but he hasn't played well enough to give them a reasonable chance to win a game. So, why not take a chance?
It's been year after year where he just doesn't do good enough, and they keep giving him chances like this. So, it makes sense that they're actually throwing Daniel Jones in there and saying, yeah, you gotta do something for us. You gotta start and, just bring us back to a point where we actually have a decent enough offense to look like we're trying to win. So yeah, that's where it looks like it stands on me. I don't know if I'll put him in this early just because of the way, how many games they're probably going to lose. Not Daniel Jones' fault, because he's probably going to ball out. I doubt he can save the entire organization this year, by himself. I know that you got guys like Saquon, who's best running back in the league by far. But, regardless, I don't know if Daniel Jones can bring this team to a playoff standpoint. I don't think that's possible at all. So. It's just kind of a weird move, but I do understand if Giants fans are happy about it, I'm happy about it. I like Daniel Jones. I never really, saw a big problem with them drafting Daniel Jones. It just kind of, to me, just looked kind of weird. But obviously, it's just impossible to spend that much time researching a guy, going to his college, spending time with him, and not saying how good of a player he is. I don't know why people were so fast to criticize the Giants. Obviously they have spent time researching this guy. They didn't just draft him because they felt like drafting a mediocre quarterback. They drafted him because they saw a dude that they knew guys were going to pass on, so they got him. And he looks to be the best out of the bunch so far. So I guess if that's what we're going to see, what we saw in the preseason, if that's what we're going to see out of DJ and in the regular season, then that's really good for the Giants. At least they can, have something to build on next year, especially if Daniel Jones can stay healthy. So knock on wood there. But yeah, Giants fans rejoice. It's looking good over there for the offense. Not sure about the defense though. So yeah, all right. Let's head over to another game real quick. Let's head over to the Jags and the Texans, right? Just because of one thing, right? Gardner Minshew. So, it's really awesome, this guy. This guy's amazing, right? So, Gardner Minshew, when Gardner Minshew, before he came off the plane for the Jags, before he got to, to the game to play, I had, the Texans by 35. Or, no, I had the Texans by, about 35, right? And so, after I saw Gardner Minshew get off the plane with his just 70s mustache and just overall 80s jacket and vibe, I'd had the Jags by 72. I mean, these guys looked insane. I mean, Gardner Minshew looks like an absolute beast. Just doesn't care. He's just a beast, and he really did show it a little bit. Even though he wasn't as good as his debut last week, he went 23 out of 33 for 213 yards.
Yeah, I mean, he was respectable. So.
Yeah, I mean, he's what you can expect out of a normal average quarterback, maybe even an above average quarterback. You have guys like Deshaun Watson that went for 16 out of 29 for 159. So he did better than Deshaun Watson, and Deshaun Watson's the best fantasy quarterback this year according to almost every analyst. So that is pretty crazy that you see this guy going off, and I do really like this guy. I didn't even know his name before the last podcast. Never even heard of this dude, to be completely honest with you. And now this guy is somebody I'm keeping an eye on for real. He could be the next underdog story. I'm not even joking. This guy could be somebody we look at and
he could be
win.
The next Aaron Rodgers.
He really could. He could be somebody that comes out of nowhere and is able to do really big things. I haven't really, watched any Jags games, so I haven't seen his play style much and the way he plays. But I suppose it's pretty good. Something for Jags fans to be very, very happy about, especially when you have Leonard Fournette out there in that offense. And the one thing you got to look at is the wide receiver core. But if you have a good quarterback like Minshew, like he is, you may not have to worry about that as much. I just have to wonder, though, how good would Minshew be right now if you had a good, big wide receiver like DK Metcalf, or maybe somebody, really shifty and fast like Marquise Brown or something like that. So, yeah, that's that. That game was, I guess by NFL standards, probably a pretty boring game, 13-12. I didn't watch it. But
yeah, but how about the Jaguars showing some balls at the end? They score a touchdown with 30 seconds left. Pull from a point 13-12 and go for the win, go for 2. They didn't make it, but how about that decision? Instead of just kicking the extra point, tying it, going to OT, they go ahead and go for the win with 30 seconds left. So
that's respectable. And you know what that shows to me? That doesn't show that they're stupid to me. It doesn't show anything like that. It's football. It shows that they have complete confidence in Gardner Minshew. And when he comes off the plane looking like that, how can you not? Like, if you don't have that confidence in Gardner Minshew, like, there's something wrong with you. They're doing great things over there in Jacksonville with that kid. Even though they're 0-2 right now, it's like a Daniel Jones situation. I can only hope to see what the future is going to be with those guys once they get all gelled together. Hope they get a wide receiver, maybe in the draft next year if he's going to be, their guy after Nick Foles, maybe isn't there anymore. So, I don't know.
And Gardner Minshew does continue to progress and play well. What do they do with Nick Foles when he's ready to come back?
Do they keep Nick Foles, or
do they try to trade Nick Foles? I mean, or
so that's an interesting narrative too. You kind of forget Nick Foles is there if he does something like this next game.
I mean, you got a guy who's going to be making $72 million versus a guy who's playing on a rookie contract. So
a young guy that can be a franchise quarterback for the next 20 years. I mean, that's. Might want to take a look at that, Jacksonville, if I were you. I know, Jalen Ramsey is requesting a trade out of there, which I, forgot to mention. But Jalen Ramsey is requesting a trade out of there. He's already asked to be traded.
That's the new thing nowadays. If you're a high-profile player, good player, you don't like your situation, just request a trade. And everybody requests one seems to get it, so why not?
You probably get it unless you get, crucified by the media and things like that. And in modern culture, you can't really keep a player like that, so. Jalen Ramsey will probably be leaving. He'll probably be going to the Titans. To be all honest with you, if he does get traded, he'll probably demand a release from somewhere and do an AB thing. I seriously think he'll end up on the Titans. He'll either end up on the Titans or the Raiders because
why the Titans?
He really wants to go to the Titans, really bad. Like, he probably more than any other player has ever wanted to go to the team. He wants to go to the Titans. Number one, because he wants to go to somebody that can win, and I don't know why he thinks the Titans.
So why does he want to go to the Titans?
I don't know why the Titans can win more than the Jaguars. I guess when you have guys like Derrick Henry and you have a guy like Marcus Mariota that's very athletic, he thinks maybe you have a better chance at winning. Doesn't like his situation, wants to go somewhere else. But the main thing is he's a Titans fan. His grandmother was a Titans fan. His whole family were Titans fans, and that's somewhere he really wants to go. So if he does end up getting traded somewhere, he doesn't like it there. If it's not the Raiders, he'll probably demand a release. He'll probably end up going to the Titans. And I'm just saying, because guys like that, they usually end up getting their way. He's a Deion Sanders type of guy in the way that he talks. He'll probably end up there.
I can understand if you're wanting to demand trade and you're wanting to go to the Cowboys or maybe to the Patriots or or even like the Chiefs or somebody else that's doing well. I mean, the Titans are. You look at them, and they're kind of a borderline team. They're a team that, maybe could squeak in there and make the playoffs. Maybe not. You don't know yet. It's only been 2 weeks. I think if they play good, they've got enough good players. They have the capability of doing it. You just don't know for sure.
Mainly because they don't make enough big moves like these other teams. I haven't heard much out of the Titans in years. I mean, I think another thing is the efficiency. You have a lot of guys on that team that aren't completely efficient, and it's not really their fault. Derrick Henry, as much as I love Derrick Henry, he's a power back. In the NFL, power backs just aren't efficient. They can't be efficient. Some games they'll get, maybe 40 yards rushing. Other games, Derrick Henry could get over 250 yards rushing. You just never know. He could go off for a big run, or he could only break off 2-yard runs the whole game. So you never really know. So that's one thing there. Marcus Mariota seems to always have something that kind of hinders him a little bit. Can never really get where he needs to. Usually underperforms in big situations. So hopefully this is a situation like Andrew Luck where Marcus Mariota can kind of be resilient in his in his playing and kind of get the Titans somewhere where they need to be to win. But yeah, so Jalen Ramsey, if he leaves the Jags, that's going to be my best option, not best option, but best prediction for where he goes, where he ends up, not where he goes, because he's probably going to end up to another, to some random team if the Jags trade him, because they're not going to trade him to a division rival. But I think he will end up on the Titans eventually. Like I said, he's a Dion type player, so that's probably what's going to happen there. Bad situation for Jacksonville on the defense, but hopefully they can get somebody else in there to kind of revive that, kind of defense there. So I guess we'll talk about like one more thing in the NFL if you want to. So we'll go into the Cowboys, right? So before the season started, my NFC favorite, who did I say like over and over again? It was the Bears. After watching the first Bears game, I immediately changed my mind, and honestly for good reason. You look at the first Bears game, they didn't do so hot at all, lost to the Packers in a game that was barely even a game. And then Chicago and the Broncos this week, it was 16-14. Just looking at the score itself, you can tell that both of these offenses aren't hot at all. I know the Broncos aren't because I watched them play the Raiders in week 1. But Chicago's offense needs some work, some heavy, heavy work. And Mitchell Trubisky has shown not to be the guy that we thought he was going to be this year. But looking at the Cowboys now, I can safely say that they're almost about to replace my my Chicago spot for NFC favorite this year. Because, let me explain. I know it's 2 weeks. But Dak this week went 26 out of 30 for 269 yards. And last week, he had a perfect QB rating. He was the only 2 quarterbacks that had a perfect QB rating, him and Lamar Jackson. While a lot of players underperformed this week, Dak stayed exactly where he was. It was 26 out of 30, 269 yards, averaged 9 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. You also have guys like Ezekiel Elliott. Carry the ball 23 times, 111 yards. Exactly what you want to see. You break 100 yards as a running back, you're perfect. 4.8 average yards, efficiency. Something that the Cowboys just have. They have efficiency. Also, not to mention, rushing. Dak Prescott earned his money week 2 by those 2 rushing plays that he did. He put Josh Norman in the dirt with a stiff arm himself. He ran 40 yards, put Josh Norman in the dirt. So he's going to earn his money. He's going to earn the Cowboys a way to go to the playoffs and compete for a Super Bowl. You got guys like Devin Smith, Michael Gallup, and Amari Cooper, not to mention Jason Witten. And I can't even leave Randall Cobb out because all of those guys have been catching touchdowns. Every single one of them. Amari Cooper caught a touchdown. Witten caught a touchdown. Devin Smith caught a touchdown. Last week, Gallup and Cobb caught touchdowns. So these guys are, just a great wide receiver core. I don't know if they're a great wide receiver core, but Dak can just get it to all of them. And Amari Cooper is one of the best wide receivers in the league. I can say that efficiently. He just doesn't get enough, targets that he's able to turn into big plays, kind of like Julio Jones in some situations. So, but, he has to split receptions with these other guys. Cowboys right now, and along with their defense and the DeMarcus Lawrence who can get pressure on anybody, and Byron Jones who can lock down wide receivers like it's nothing, these guys have a great shot of going to the Super Bowl this year. I know it's hard to say if you're an NFL fan. We all hate the Cowboys, but the Cowboys are looking great right now. I mean, they're looking really good. Probably my NFC favorite. I don't know about you, but these guys are looking special this year. They're looking different.
The Cowboys are looking pretty solid right now, I have to admit. And we'll have to see how they progress. Of course, they'll have another W this coming Sunday because they're hosting the Dolphins. So that one could get kind of ugly.
And I have Zeke on my fantasy team, and he's playing the Dolphins, so should be a W.
Yeah, I mean, but every time you see the Cowboys and everything is going good, they always seem to find a way somehow to screw things up. So we'll see. I mean, but right now they're looking good. Their offense is doing well. Their defense has been pretty solid. They don't have any real injuries to speak of, so so we'll have to see. But it looks like they got a W coming up next week, and I think for the next several weeks actually, I don't think they have any really daunting games on the schedule.
Sets them up perfectly for
Looks
a
like
trip.
the following week. Well, the following week they got to play at New Orleans, but what better time to play the Saints without Drew Brees? So
and even with Drew Brees, they were already looking like they were on a slight decline.
So their schedule's setting up for them pretty nicely right now. Everything's going good. So I look that over the next several weeks on the schedule. I don't see a real chance for a loss for the next few weeks. So we'll have to see how it goes.
I mean, it looks like they're setting themselves up for a trip to the Super Bowl, a trip to at least, high up in the playoffs, a deep run to the playoffs. So, definitely a team to look for. If you weren't a fan of the Cowboys before, look out for them because they're coming for your favorite team. They might beat your favorite team this year. That's the Cowboys. I really like them as my NFC favorites right now, at least for right now because they're looking good. So just quick recap before we move into college football, I guess. We're moving on from the NFL in a second. But, last night we had the Browns and the Jets play in what seemed like a really boring game. Injuries all across the board with David Njoku on the Browns, not to mention you had Quentin Williams out. And C.J. Mosley on the Jets, like we talked about earlier, along with Sam Darnold. And you could see that easily translated. They only put 3 points up. It's 23-3. So, I know we talked about, the injuries before. We didn't really talk about the game. But Baker Mayfield didn't do too. I mean, he did pretty good looking at his stats. But the way they played, they looked like an okay offense with the guys that they have. So I don't know, something to look at if you think the Browns are going to be crazy this year. It's something to look at. Maybe something's not gelling correctly on their team. But then you looked at the Falcons last year with Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, and you saw those guys early weren't gelling very hard. It's just something to look at. Not anything too big to worry about. They still beat a team 23-3. Not sure if that was so much based on the offense part, but just something to kind of glance over and watch out for the rest of the season for. So OBJ did have a one-handed catch though, so you got to see things are going pretty normal, as they would expect if he had a one-handed catch. And an 89-yard touchdown. So that is that. That's the Browns and the Jets. So it was a not very interesting game, but it happened, and it was a Monday night game, so that's all you had to watch. Then that's all you have to watch. So all right. So I guess moving on, we can move on to college now, if you wish, if you want to.
We shall.
All right. So recap: what exactly happened in college football this weekend? Nothing.
Well,
nothing. Absolutely nothing.
We knew going in this was going to be one of the least exciting games or weeks, or I should say weekends on the schedule. Any real marquee games? I think it had just one top 25 matchup. A lot of the games looked to be mismatches before they were played, and that's exactly the way it ended up playing out. This week coming up, though, is going to be a lot more promising, a lot more interesting games to be watched. The headliner of this coming week is going to be Notre Dame playing at Georgia Saturday night. That should be a very good game. I think Georgia is going to win that game handily. I don't really see it being a close game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout necessarily. But I think Georgia has a big edge on Notre Dame on both lines of scrimmage. Georgia, of course, has a great running game. Jake Fromm, he's got good enough receivers that he can keep the defense honest throwing the football. Georgia's defense is really good. And playing at home, playing at night, big home field advantage, and I think Georgia should win that game convincingly.
Watching that game where Notre Dame played Louisville kind of shows to me that like this may be a decent enough test for the Georgia offense, but at the same time, I think they're going to blow right through them because Louisville was able to put so many points on them. I know obviously they're an offense that's supposed to rack up a lot of points and with high flying plays, but I think this may not be the biggest test we've seen for Georgia's offense, but I think it could be a test regardless if that defense kind of hardens up a little bit because we know obviously they're a top 25 defense because they're a top 25 team. So they have that defense that they need to test Georgia. They have to tighten up though. I guess we could finally see a little bit kind of how Georgia's offense is truly. I still don't think we'll actually know 100% until we watch them play an SEC team. Like LSU or Alabama in the SEC championship or something like that. So, yeah, we'll see on that regard. But yeah, that's definitely the best matchup of the week. I'm looking forward to that one, definitely. Yeah, Georgia's probably gonna steamroll them though. So.
Yeah, and we got some other good games coming up. You've also got a top 25 matchup on Saturday. You got Michigan playing at Wisconsin. That's a big matchup. It'll go a long way to determining the Big Ten race. Michigan team that has kind of underwhelmed a little bit first couple weeks of the season. I think people felt like, especially on offense, that they would look a lot better than they have. Shea Patterson has been making some mistakes. The offense has sputtered a little bit here and there. But they're going to get a real test this weekend with Wisconsin. Wisconsin, of course, we know can run the football, has a pretty decent defense. I would really expect Wisconsin to win that game. I think overall they're probably a better team, and they don't lose very often playing at home. So I would give them the edge there.
I think one game you gotta look at too. Yeah, definitely. I wasn't gonna say this before, but I'm kind of interested in this, especially after what happened last week. So like Florida and Tennessee, right? Because Florida has very underproved what they were expected to do this year, especially with Felipe Franks being out. What are they going to do against Tennessee, somebody that came out with these two losses that are very, very bad losses, have proved very bad for the SEC, in terms of pride, looking at the SEC. So Florida versus Tennessee in an SEC matchup, how do you think that's going to play out? What do you think this score of that game is going to look like?
Well, ironically, in most cases when a team loses their quarterback, that's usually viewed as a bad thing, and you just hope that the backup can come in and do a reasonably good job as a replacement and the team continue to be successful. In this case for Florida, I think them losing Felipe Franks may actually be a good thing because I think Kyle Trask, who is going to be his replacement, is probably a more gifted and skilled passer than Felipe is. He certainly looked apart coming in against Kentucky this past Saturday. And I think in the long run, I think Florida's going to be a better team for us, especially on offense. I think a lot of people look at Tennessee and think that this, on paper, looks like it's going to be a blowout, and I don't think so. I think this is going to end up being a close game. Tennessee is not as bad as it showed the first two games, and winning a game can do a lot for a team's psyche. I think they're going to feel a lot better about themselves, have a lot more confidence about themselves coming to the game against Florida. And I think they'll play them tough. I don't think they'll win the game. I think Florida wins the game. But I think this game probably, the final score is probably somewhere within a touchdown.
I can see that. I can see, probably at first, I can see Tennessee going in and giving Florida a hard time, scoring. Maybe for the first half, honestly, probably Florida puts up a touchdown or maybe a field goal in the second quarter. But I do think the real result out of that game is going to come from late in the fourth quarter probably, or third quarter at least. So yeah, that's gonna be something to watch. Regardless, seeing these two teams that have very undermined what they were expected to do. But obviously Florida, gonna win that game by at least an 80% win percentage from all the analysts giving, and with the new quarterback coming in for Felipe Franks, you have a guy that maybe can step up and be an actual leader this time that doesn't, get all up in the media's grill and, stir around the media and things like that. So that's something. And hopefully something positive, like you said, for Florida. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then like I said, those are kind of the big matchups. One other one we want to mention too, of course, you got Auburn playing at Texas A&M. Auburn 8th, Texas A&M ranked 17th. Texas A&M, of course, did not look very good a couple weeks ago when they played at Clemson. But this time they're playing at home. They're hosting Auburn. Auburn, the team, has a really good defense. Still some question about their offense. Of course, they're still breaking in a true freshman quarterback, Bo Nix. Be interesting to see how well he does in an environment on the road. Auburn's first true road game, playing in front of 100,000 people. So had to see how he holds up against that. But I think that's going to be a close game as well. I want to say I think Texas A&M is probably going to win that game, but I think it'll be close.
I think Texas A&M is going to win that game as well, only because they are a lot better than what they showed against Clemson. I think they could have gave at 100%. They could have gave Clemson the hardest test they were going to face all year. Kellen Mond completely did not show up for that game at all. He was nervous from the get-go, could not hit anything he needed to hit.
He played poorly.
Played probably the worst of I've seen him play in a long, long time. So for Auburn, I think it's going to be a test that they weren't expecting. I think Kellen Mond's going to play better because they're not the number one team in the nation. They're number 8. Auburn is. So Texas A&M, going into the game is not going to feel threatened. I think they're going to feel evenly matched, even though they're, lower than Auburn is in the top 25. None of them care about that. They know they've seen Auburn play. Obviously, you have Jimbo studying Auburn right now. He knows that Auburn's weaker than they seem. I mean, they've gotten some Auburn luck, and they've gotten some big plays here and there. If there's anything Jimbo knows how to do, he knows how to take big plays away. You've seen that even when he plays, guys like Alabama and, just in general. He knows how to take big plays away and, chew down some time. So I think Kellen Mond can come out and give Auburn a reasonable challenge. I think they could win that game. I think they could win that game by at least a touchdown. Upset alert, maybe. So I guess we'll see what happens there. That's going to be a good game to watch, though. I think that's going to be a pretty great game.
Yeah, I do too. I think that'll be certainly a game to keep an eye on. You got a few other games as well. Those are kind of the highlighted games, the ones that are, I guess, are going to have the most meaning as far as the polls go and conference races and so forth. There are a couple other interesting games as well to keep an eye on. One is actually on Friday night. You got 10th ranked Utah, who a lot of people are leaning towards now, seeing as the possibly the best team coming out of the Pac-12. Maybe the one team that has a real true shot at making the playoff. They're playing at USC Friday night. USC, a team that they got players. They're capable, but they lost in overtime this past Saturday to BYU. So, not sure where that team is at right now mentally. You got a pretty good Utah team coming in. And I'm kind of leaning towards picking an upset here. I think USC might pull that one out. USC's got this game at home. They're coming off a loss. They got a quarterback who made his first start last week, a freshman. So with a game under his belt, playing a Utah team that, albeit has a good defense, they're not a great offense. They kind of depend on defense coming through to really help them win their games. USC is going to be by far the biggest test they've had from a defensive standpoint. I think USC can certainly put some pressure on their defense, and I think USC might pull off the upset here. I would go with the Trojans.
They definitely could. I don't know if I want to disrespect Corso like that or anything, but yeah, I mean, I think USC definitely could. I think Utah's defense has shown it's not as obviously everybody thought it was going to be good, like a sleeper kind of defense. I don't know. I think it's shown to be a little bit more lenient than it has than was expected to be. I think USC can get in there and slip a couple points in, just kind of under the radar. Maybe I'll get off to a fast start. I'm not sure exactly how that game's going to play out, but I do feel like, especially with USC's QB right now, I definitely do feel like that they kind of could pull an upset over Utah. I think Utah probably wouldn't be expecting a lot of fast moving plays out of the gate, deep shots, things like that, and play actions that can open up holes in the secondary to get downfield to score. I don't think they would be expecting things like that, and USC is going to have to do that type of stuff if they want to exploit Utah's defense, because Utah's defense is one of the best in the country. Everybody's talking about that. I mean, it's a real true sleeper defense this year, so they're going to have a way to get to. They're going to have to find a way to get past that Utah defense, and if they can do that, then I think they can solidify upset. So.
Absolutely. And another game out west to keep out on, too. If you got number 22 Washington playing at BYU. BYU, I mean, you talking about an early season schedule. A lot of them may have a lot of teams playing a soft or a cupcake schedule. Well, you certainly can't say that about BYU. BYU's schedule so far, they opened up the season playing Utah, and then they were at Tennessee, and then they had USC last week, and this week they're hosting Washington. So,
and you can tell those were all tough tests. I mean, with Tennessee is 29-26, USC was 30-27. These guys are here to play. So you can tell these are pretty tough tests for BYU, and if they can get it done against USC 30-27, I wonder what they're going to do against Washington. That could be another upset that we see. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure which way that one's going to go. Washington is always a good team. They're well coached, but I think that would be a close game. I wouldn't be surprised to see Washington win. I wouldn't be surprised to see BYU win. I really haven't made up my mind which way I think that one will go, but I think it'll be a close game.
I think BYU is going to look pretty good up until they have to play Boise. If they win this game, they're going to look pretty good up until they play Boise State. If they can, pull something over Boise State, I think they're going to look good for the rest of their schedule. Honestly, with the way that they have it going after Boise.
They're going to be here playing USF in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, so they're going to be in our area at USF. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, BYU, QBU. So I don't know about this year, but. Yeah, definitely going to be fun to watch. Just a team that can kind of slip into the top 25 on the radar and get into a bowl game maybe or something like that. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what BYU does. Yeah, that's going to be a good one because Washington overall has been kind of static in their ranking. So if somebody can pull the upset on them, interesting. Okay, so. All right, moving on. I guess, one thing we can talk about is, Alabama's big win over, their last game in South Carolina, which was a game that some people were going to say was very tough. I think a lot of people thought it was going to be tougher, obviously, beforehand with Ryan Olinsky, but with Jay Bentley. But Ryan Olinsky was able to pull off some things that I think a lot of Alabama fans kind of expected. It was going to be a kind of a little bit of a harder game than I think, a lot of us were expecting before the season. A lot of us did think it was going to be a bigger one closer to now. But yeah, 47-23 Bama, and in a game where, all right, Paige is unresponsive. In a game where we kind of saw a a challenge going on. And so what we ended up seeing was just Tua balling out again, able to get some points on the board. And I think what we saw a lot of was Tua kind of putting himself out there and overall just making a point to do what he said he was trying to do this season, which is don't take the big play if he doesn't have to. Take the little play. All these games leading up until the big game when we have to play LSU. When Alabama has to play LSU is kind of the games where Tua is going to look at big plays and say, maybe I shouldn't take that. Maybe I should take the little chunk play, a little underneath play, or whatever it may be. Maybe I should take that, and that's the way that he's going to win championship this year. So that's the way he's going to have to do it. He's been talking about that all season. There was a couple times at the South Carolina game where he did take that little chunk play, didn't take the big play. So yeah, good win for Alabama there. Moving on to Southern Miss on Saturday.
Yeah, Alabama hosting Southern Miss is coming Saturday. Yeah, so
yeah, after the South Carolina win, I could only imagine how Southern Miss is going to get rolled this Saturday. But,
yeah, I mean, that should not be a difficult game for Alabama. They are currently a 38.5-point favorite. Southern Miss will be a little bit more of a test than Alabama's other non-conference game they had this season so far, but that is a game that they should still win easily. Again, you should see a lot of backups playing in the second half. In Alabama, and one thing we're going to have to watch for them, they won the game comfortably as I expected they would against South Carolina. The offense did a little bit better than I thought they would as far as being able to move the ball and put points on the board. And it appears that passing is going to carry the offense this year. The running game may come along and be better, but right now it is not being a huge factor for this team. Hopefully, as this line gels, and hopefully in a couple of weeks when they get, or actually this week I should say, when they get Deontay Brown back, who is generally regarded as the team's best run blocker, maybe they can improve on that and be a little more balanced on their offense. But offensively, Alabama's doing very well. Defensively, it's going to be a huge issue. I didn't expect South Carolina to be as successful moving the ball as they were against us. Of course, we had some untimely penalties, which didn't help. But it's obvious that the freshman linebackers and a little bit of lack of experience and depth hurt us against South Carolina. So hopefully the team was able to learn something by that. I think Alabama's going to be experimenting and maybe trying out some different guys, some different combinations, particularly in the middle of the defense, and try to short it up a little bit. But that's going to be a big storyline for this team going forward. Is how much better the defense can be versus what they are right now. Because if they're probably going to be okay with what they have now, as long as the offense continues to perform like it is until they get to LSU. If they're not able to put together a more sound defense by the time they play LSU, that could spell a lot of trouble for them.
Yeah, what it really comes down to for me is I think these next few games, Nick Saban's going to be really experimenting with the linebacker core. He's going to be experimenting with the linebacker schemes, the way that they play up front, the way they drop back into coverage, who can play it best, who can play best under pressure, who's the fastest, who's the best in coverage. All these things are going to come into account until we have to play LSU. With the addition of Ali Kau playing, way more playing time than we expected. Him to play against South Carolina, it's really a question of, you got to ask yourself, is Nick Saban, really know what he's doing right now with the linebacker core? And I'll say, he knows exactly what he's doing. Right now he's planning it out. He's experimenting. He's going to see what exactly needs to happen for us to have the best chance, to win against these big SEC teams like LSU, especially in the middle with the linebacker core. I think that's the biggest thing you got to look at. Another thing was the secondary for Alabama. And back deep, I think this has always been a problem for big players at least. And I think that's something that can be done. I think Alabama finally has a secondary that is, good enough to to beat the top tier teams like Clemson and things like that downfield. I just think that they're giving up a lot of plays they shouldn't give up. I think the younger guys are too, especially you saw when towards the end of the game. The reason why South Carolina had that many points was that last touchdown they had towards the end of the game that kind of went over and into the end zone. So there's just a lack of coverage by safeties there. The scheme wasn't played very well. The speed wasn't very well by the DB at all. To go ahead and get that catch out of bounds or whatever. That was a time where you saw kind of an exploit in the depth of the safeties there at Alabama. So something you're just gonna have to look at, and something that I would honestly have faith in if you're looking at Alabama's DBs. I just think that they are better than everybody's showing it to be. I think people forget that towards the end of these games, they're like Nick likes to put his depth in. He likes to cycle out his depth, and that's exactly what happened in South Carolina. But there are plays that some of the veteran guys do make that they don't make as well. They should be making these plays better. So yeah, like I said, I think they can get it done. We'll just have to see what happens, and they'll have to take time to learn and kind of get into that mindset in mid-season form when they do play LSU in these next few games before they do. So yeah, and also like looking at these ESPN scores right now in these in week 4, looking at these next few games. I'm looking at Air Force and Boise State, kind of out of the corner of my eye, and I'm seeing it's going to be 68 degrees there in Boise, Idaho. We're in Florida right now. That's where we're based out of, and it's like 92 degrees like every day. So just seeing 68 degrees there in Boise, Idaho right now, that feels good just looking at that number. Like I swear. So that's gonna be a nice game for Boise State to kind of trump the Air Force and get another dub under their belt.
Yeah, of course. On the opposite side, Alabama, of course, getting another daytime afternoon game that they have been complaining about, particularly with the intense heat that they are still dealing with in the southeast. It's not usually supposed to be quite that hot in the middle of September, but looks like Alabama will be kicking off, of course, at noon on Saturday, noon Eastern. Kickoff temperature like it's going to be about 90 degrees, so it'll be nice and toasty for those fans. So
yeah, people thought the week before last was bad. This is gonna be terrible. They're gonna have to really pull out the fire trucks.
And that's the kickoff temp. So probably by the time they get to halftime, it'll probably be a few degrees warmer than that.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame a lot of people for missing that game or even passing out during that game because I don't know that's gonna look like a game where people are gonna be leaving early. Too hot for me. Too hot for anybody, really. Nobody should be enduring that. But yeah, just extreme heat waves over here in the southeast for no reason this year. Usually not that hot, like you said, but I don't know. It's kind of weird how it's going this year. I mean, even with the LSU and Vanderbilt game in Nashville, it's going to be 88 degrees. Gainesville is going to be nice 86. Madison's going to be 77 in Wisconsin, so that's always good. Yeah, the weather for these games, you're looking at summer weather, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your football forecast. Yeah, get it? Like, forecast, like weather. So, there you go.
It doesn't look like rain's going to be an issue in any of these games. It looks like all these games are, you're looking at sunny to partly cloudy skies. And it looks like weather's not going to really play a big factor in any of these unless you count the games where it's going to be really hot. So, the heat can always bring on issues such as, of course, fatigue, cramping,
dehydration if you're Willie Taggart.
Like that.
If you're Willie Taggart at FSU, then it's dehydration.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But Willie Taggart right now, I don't think that really matters much. He's going to have to. He needs to figure out a way to get his team to play better. Whether they're dehydrated or not.
Yeah, I mean those guys are just gonna have to suck it up and drink some water before the game, I guess. I mean I don't know what to tell you, Willie, but those guys cannot all be dehydrated if they practice out there every single day. So you guys must be practicing at like 3 a.m. if it's really that hot during the games. So I don't know. So yeah. Overall, that's pretty much the basis for the biggest college games. Like we said, not much news going into that this week. You look at Clemson playing somebody like Charlotte, and you're like, oh, okay. So
Yeah, Clemson. Clemson is starting their countdown to the playoffs. They're playing Charlotte this week. Next week, I don't know who they're playing, but does it really matter? I mean, they're
They're just dominant. They're just gonna make it.
they just don't have any formidable opponents remaining on their schedule. I mean, if you look at their schedule, I mean they got Charlotte this week. Next week they're gonna play at North Carolina. I mean, North Carolina is better than people expected, but they're not a world beater team. That's the game Clemson's probably gonna win by at least 30. Then the next week they got to play Florida State. That one could be ugly. Then they're at Louisville. They have Boston College. And they play Wofford. At North Carolina State, Wake Forest, South Carolina. I mean, there's just not a team on there that's going to seriously challenge them. The only Clemson right now, their biggest opponent is Clemson.
Yep.
Can they sustain a level and play to a standard and continue that throughout the season? Just like in years past, people have heard Nick Saban talk about Alabama. Sometimes, Alabama's biggest opponent is itself. Can they, even when they're playing teams that they know that they should beat easily, can they play to a standard and continue the same level of preparation, intensity, and focus, and carry that on from week to week to week? That's the battle that Clemson's going to have right now because. Looking at their schedule, there's no way that they should lose a game in the regular season. And even whoever they might have played an ACC championship game, that should be a win for them as well. Right now, their biggest battle is going to be within themselves. And if they can continue to perform at a high level throughout the rest of the season, because right now, their next real chance at possibly losing the game will be whoever they might wind up facing off against in the playoffs. So,
yeah, I think the best chance for Clemson to lose is going to be the first round of their playoffs. The closest chance for them to lose, at least. So, don't know who they're going to play there. Honestly, with all these teams coming out, Oklahoma, Ohio State, you got Georgia, LSU, everybody that's in like the top 7 are guys that are teams that could give Clemson a pretty good challenge. I think we all kind of see it really coming down to a rematch of last year. But yeah, no. Clemson's going to make it in number 1, so you're just going to have to rely on a good number 4 to get in and kind of give them a big challenge. And hopefully, if you don't like Clemson, hopefully the best person to give them a challenge, is Oklahoma. If I was somebody that didn't like Clemson, I would probably want Oklahoma, try to get in at 4 instead of 3 or something like that and try to beat LSU for that 4 spot. I think Georgia's 3 in the AP poll right now, if I'm not mistaken.
They
are.
Yeah.
So Oklahoma being in at 4, best chance for Clemson to lose. But I mean, LSU could also do the same thing, but I think Jalen Hurts has a better chance of putting pressure on that Clemson defense than Joe Burrow does. But that's just my opinion. That's just me. I think Jalen could probably do that. But we'll see. That's a long ways away. Still got a lot of football to play. It's only week 4 right now, going into week 4. So, it's fun to talk about, though. It's fun to realize. But got to enjoy the journey because it's going to be here before you know it. We're going to see one of those teams win the national championship before you know it. Then we're going to have to wait another offseason for the football season to start again. So it's good to talk about these things for you, get into them. And, so we're gonna love what we see, what we watch this weekend. A lot of decent games, no great ones, but a lot of decent ones. And getting into November, there's gonna be some good ones definitely. But yeah. So looking forward to that. Clemson and Charlotte definitely gonna be the highlight of the weekend. Yeah, definitely. Probably gonna be 65-0 Clemson. Texas and Oklahoma State is a decent one too. I am part of a sports network on Twitter with a lot of Texans fans, including that. Got a couple of Oklahoma State fans in there too, so they're talking about that game. So that's a pretty sleeper type of game to watch.
Don't be surprised if Oklahoma State wins that game. Texas,
they could pull the upset.
Yeah, I mean Texas. Again, they're a team that they've shown they can score a lot of points. They can also give up a lot of points. Oklahoma State's kind of in that same neighborhood. But Oklahoma State has a team that generally shows up for these kind of games and plays pretty well. Not guaranteeing they're going to win the game, but I think that's definitely going to be a four-quarter football game. But now, it wouldn't surprise me if Oklahoma State won that game. In fact, I think Oklahoma State will win that game because this is the kind of game. People want to talk about Texas and they want to say Texas is back and blah, blah, blah. Well, one of the reasons why Texas isn't back is because every year they have a game like this that they tend to not show up or play well and they lose. I'm not saying Oklahoma State's not a good team, but most people are going to pick Texas to win this game.
State, yeah.
The line is, it's just Texas is favored by 6 points, which is not a big line. That's about what I would expect. But I think most people, if you ask them, particularly the ones you see on TV, all the national, guys, they're going to predict Texas to win. But this kind of game that Texas seems to not show up and play poorly and lose, and I think this is going to be one of those games. I think Oklahoma State wins this game.
I'll take that. Yeah, I'll definitely agree with you there. I think that's Texas being number 12. Honestly, I know how the AP poll works and everything, but honestly, for me, that's a little too high. Against LSU, without having any running backs, they did as good as they could against LSU with Sam Ehlinger running the ball. They're not going to be able to do that all the time, and I think Oklahoma State is the first game that's going to show, you can't run against us with Sam Ehlinger every play you want to run the ball. They're going to learn that here. They're going to pass for a little bit. A lot of their guys aren't going to show up on defense. They're going to allow some big plays, probably some early scores. It's going to throw them off their rhythm. You're playing in 92 degrees heat, obviously, in your own hometown of Austin, Texas. But regardless, I think this game is going to be something to look at, something to watch. I know a lot of people probably aren't going to, watch this game, especially with Notre Dame and Georgia coming on 30 minutes after it starts. But I would take that there, and I would agree with you. I think Oklahoma State can pull upset. I think they will pull upset. So yeah, I mean that was in general kind of most of college football, most of the coverage we have for Week 4. I don't know if you really had anything else to add, anything big.
No.
There's nothing really happening in college football, to be honest. But
no, other than that, just continuing the Willie Taggart watch.
Yeah, Willie Taggart watch. Is he gonna keep sucking?
If he continues to get a step closer each week to getting fired, so.
Yeah, so like the question you have to ask: how hot can his seat get? I mean, what temperature is his seat right now? Are we looking at like a 98-degree seat, or are we looking at like a 400-degree Fahrenheit seat? Like we have no idea. Looks like FSU's in no hurry to say get out of here. Willie, personally, he would be out if it was my team, but
I'd say right now his seat is toasty, but it's not hot.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
yet.
Like cooking s'mores on it. Like I could cook some s'mores on it, maybe some like cookies if I wanted to. Like if I put a tray of cookie dough on that seat, I would expect some cookies to be made. I'm not 100% sure yet. Willie's definitely not going to be there next season. I'll say that for sure.
And it's like Florida State this Saturday is hosting Louisville, so
Louisville will beat them. I will say that.
I don't
Precisely.
know.
I think
That's one of those games that could get sloppy and ugly, so we'll have to see.
I think they'll beat. Yeah, I do agree. That's gonna be a very sloppy game. I feel like there's gonna be over like 8 turnovers in total. There's gonna be a lot of turnovers.
I think it'll be an entertaining game. I think you'll see some big plays. I think you'll see some turnovers. You'll probably see a lot of different things. So if you like entertaining football, not necessarily great football, but entertaining football. That'll be a good game. Yeah. That'll be a good game to watch. I think it's on ESPN.
It'll look like the Florida and Miami game at the beginning of the season, just with lesser stakes because nobody cares about either of these teams at this point. So that's that game. I mean, that's FSU. That's Willie for you. So sorry, Willie. I guess in general that was pretty much college football. Like I said, not much to really go over there because not really a lot happening so far. Next week, we'll have some games to talk about. Mostly the NFL has been, the biggest thing. We already went over the NFL. Just to recap what's going on, got Big Ben out. You got, like we covered last week, Nick Foles is out. Sam Darnold's out for a couple weeks. Drew Brees is out for 6 weeks. Now you have a different NFL. The NFC South is going to flip over The Steelers have Mika Fitzpatrick and are on a run from the people who say that they are tanking. They are trying to get away from that, and they are not tanking. The Giants have started Daniel Jones. Weird week in NFL. Normal week in college football. Football is just going to get crazier and crazier. If you want to stay completely up to date with everything that happens, you want a big, hour-long recap, watch our podcast every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Gave you a pretty good recap this week. A lot of stuff happened in the NFL. I think we were able to cover most of it. The important stuff, not the little things, because a lot of the little things are very disappointing. But yeah, I think the biggest thing was that Drew Brees injury. Glad we covered that first because that was a big thing.
Maybe after this week, maybe we can get focused more on the game. It seems like a lot of stuff off the field has been happening, kind of overshadow what's happening with the games. You had a lot, of course, a lot of injuries. You've had players demanding trades. You've had holdouts, other off-field drama. Maybe all that will kind of get pushed to the side, and it maybe from this point on, maybe there'll be more of a focus on the games.
And that's just kind of stuff I want to do. Just looking at when I was watching the Falcons and Eagles game, and I saw that play that the Falcons made where they threw a screen to Julio, and Jake Matthews completely leveled a guy to get Julio into the end zone, and that was a play I wanted to come on here and give an analysis for. But when you have all these big injuries and things like that, you kind of forget those little things, those little plays, those little analysis that you can give, and you kind of end up talking about the big things. So. But yeah, that just is going to happen when you have these things happen, and rightfully so, because there were big things that happened. So next week we'll have some better things. The NFL will start to get back to normal. I don't know if the NFL will be back to normal. Really, the only two things that are normal this year is that Patrick Mahomes is balling out and Tom Brady is Tom Brady. Those are the only two constants that we have so far. So we'll see that battle as we continue into the NFL season. Also have some more college football news for you next season after all these games pass over. We're very active on Instagram, by the way, too, so I'll be live covering all the games. NFL Sunday and college football Saturday on Instagram. On Instagram, our handle is Your Football Forecast, so go ahead and search us up there. You can follow me. I will post things on the story. And just to give you guys updates and things like that, I ask questions. I post polls on there that you guys can answer. It's a good way for us to stay in touch. You can DM us with any suggestions or topics. If you also have anything else you want to say or anything you want to add, you can put that in the comments on YouTube as well. We read that. The live chat is a way to get in touch with us as well. We are always looking at the live chat when we stream. You can put whatever you want there. Facebook, same thing. Not many people watch on Facebook, but yeah. So yeah, suggestions, topics, comments on Instagram, whatever you guys want to do. Get in touch with us, interact. That's what we want to do. We want to start a community of people that love watching football, that are very passionate about football, because it's very fun, very wacky this year. So it's great to talk about. It's fun to talk about. It's all we love talking about. It's just really the best sport in the world. So. Yeah, like I said, this was the Football Forecast episode 9 on Tuesday, September 17th, 2019. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to tune in next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Do you have anything to add?
No, I'm good.
All right, I think we're good. See you guys.